19-year-old Harry Dunn had been on his motorbike on his way to see his dad. It was a summer evening, August the 27th. He was riding through the village of Croton in Northamptonshire. He would have been approaching the brow of that hill when he was hit head-on by a woman driving in the wrong direction. He was taken to hospital, but he later died of multiple injuries. The crash site was just outside RAF Croton. When the ambulances arrived, Harry was still alive. The driver of the other vehicle, Anne Sakoulas. She's the wife of US diplomat Jonathan Sakoulas, who was stationed at RAF Croton, an American spy base. Mrs. Sakoulas, a mother of 3, claimed diplomatic immunity and left the country.
We have met with the suspect and the presence of legal advisors in order for us to identify the best way forward. During the course of that meeting, we were aware that diplomatic immunity had been raised as an issue, and we then made an immediate application for a waiver in order for us to undertake further investigations and interview. Unfortunately, we were latterly advised that the waiver had been declined and that the suspect had left the UK.
When the Foreign Office was told she was returning to America, its officials didn't pass it on to Northamptonshire Police, whose responsibility was to establish whether she had diplomatic immunity. To learning Anne Sakoulas was leaving.
We duly and immediately objected in clear and strong terms, and we have done ever since.
Foreign Office briefing note copied to Dominic Raab's private secretary 3 days after the crash, outlining what happened. It reveals concern over the potential for some very unpalatable headlines.
Someone from the US Embassy told Anne Sakoulas to leave. They said that as a diplomat's wife, she was entitled to immunity.
On Friday, September the 13th, 2 senior Foreign Office officials met US Embassy counterparts who said diplomatic immunity wouldn't be waived and the Sakoulas family would return to the US the next day, unless the UK had strong objections, which officials say they expressed. But the following day, a senior Foreign Office official sent a text message to a US Embassy counterpart saying, "I think that now the decision has been taken not to waive immunity, there's not much mileage in us asking you to keep the family here. It's obviously not us approving of their departure, but I think you should feel able to put them on the next flight out." The following day, Anne Sakoulas and her family flew back to America.
There is a special agreement for the base to allow American spies to operate on British soil without fear of prosecution. In 2013, it was reported that the station had played a part in the hacking of German Chancellor Angela Merkel's phones by US intelligence agencies. A letter arrived 2 days after the funeral. It was from the US ambassador to the UK, offering his condolences.
It's wrong.
It's wrong, and bless Harry, he was just riding his bike. Not a care in the world, just riding his bike along the road.
The family felt that they had no official help, so they turned to a neighbour, a former lawyer, and now their spokesperson.
They don't hate this woman. They know she made a mistake. What they're struggling to forgive is the running away overnight. Really what we want is closure. As I said, we've been appealing to them to come and talk to us for many, many weeks now, and it's nothing happening. So I fear that the opportunity to do that, now, if it's not lost, then it's nearly lost.
Good morning, everybody. But actually, if you look at what it looks like, the proper use of immunity, it was originally designed for diplomats to be working in hostile environments. That's clearly not the case here in the United Kingdom. And I think actually, if you kind of go back in our recent history, there actually hasn't been a situation and this is unique, in that actually they've used diplomatic immunity in this way.
We hope that wiser political minds will prevail and Mrs. Sakoulas will be delivered back to stand trial and to give an account of herself. But if that fails to happen, it is worth remembering that diplomatic immunity only applies whilst you're in the foreign state. And now she's returned to the United States. the family are entitled to sue her. Now, this isn't about money, this is about them understanding an explanation of how she came to kill their son. And I think the British government, if they're going to not repatriate her, should actually be funding the family to sue in America so they can get the explanation which they so richly deserve.
Harry's case was raised in a phone call to President Trump by the Prime Minister.
I do not think that it can be right to use the process of diplomatic immunity for this type of purpose, and I hope that Anne Sakoulas will come back and will engage properly with the processes of law as they're carried out in this country.
The woman was driving on the wrong side of the road, and that can happen. You know, those are the opposite roads. That happens. I won't say it ever happened to me, but it did. I was telling Boris, we have a lot of Americans that, you know, they side on the fact that, you know, you have two wonderful parents that lost their son, and the woman was driving on the wrong side of the road. And that can happen. You know, those are the opposite roads. That happens. So a young man was killed. The person that was driving the automobile has diplomatic immunity. We're going to speak to her very shortly and see if we can do something. We're going to speak to her, and we're going to see the person driving the car, the wife of the diplomat. We're going to speak to her and see what we can come up with so that there can be some healing. There's tremendous anger over it. It's a terrible incident. There's tremendous anger, and I understand the anger from the other side.
But a photographer zoomed in on the president's notes as he put them away. Had he been asked, he would confirm that Anne Sakoulas would not return to the UK and that she would need to consider, based on the advice of her legal counsel, whether to make herself available for questioning by the British authorities.
In my experience, America is very, very reluctant to allow its nationals to be tried overseas, and is absolutely ruthless in enforcing the code of diplomatic immunity. I must say I don't think it was appropriate for that provision to be used in this case, and I made that point.
Seemingly straightforward accident investigation has escalated to an international incident.
She was charged with causing death by dangerous driving, but the US government refuses to extradite her.
You've essentially got a young man here who's lost his life, and nobody has been held to account for that. Justice has just not been done.
We all want to make our place in this world. We all want our voices to be heard. Everyone wants a chance to be someone. We all have dreams we need to dream, but sweeter than every star you can reach is when you reach and find you found someone. You hold this world's most priceless thing, the greatest gift this life can bring. If you can look back and know you were loved, you were loved by someone, touched by someone, held by someone, meant something to someone, love somebody, touch somebody's heart along the way. You can look back and say, you were loved. You can have diamonds in your head.
Governments, I can't really see the point as to why we were invited to go and see Dominic Raab.
But in 1997, the US was on the other side of the debate when Georgian diplomat Georgi Makaragski killed 16-year-old Jovian Waltrick and injured 4 others while drink driving in Washington. and the Clinton administration pressured Georgia to waive his diplomatic immunity, which they did. He spent 5 years in prison after the killing of Metropolitan Police Officer Yvonne Fletcher in London in 1984. She was shot dead by someone from the window of the Libyan embassy. When the 11-day siege ended, all those inside, including the killer, made their way out and flew home after being granted diplomatic immunity. The main suspect is still being pursued in a civil case.
Diplomatic immunity protects diplomats and their families from prosecution if they break certain laws in foreign countries. It applies to UK diplomats abroad too. Only the nation where the diplomat is employed can waive this legal protection. Although they can't be prosecuted, they can face expulsion from the host nation.
You were loved, so remember to tell that one.